Okay, so what we've done to make the posts to go around the garden beds is buy these 3 metre lengths of wood, which are 19 by 32 millimeters. I'll put a link to it. We just bought them from Wix. And what we're going to do is just divide these into divide them into 3. So each one will be 1 metre high. And so we're just going to saw those into pieces, and then we'll show you what we're going to do with them on the edge of the bed. Just want to show you my before here at the moment. So I have created a real hodgepodge with some old some hoops that were part of a little mini polytunnel, some mistakes that are left over from last year, some bamboo sticks, and here you can see how I have got my grid set up. It's about 25-30 centimeters high at the moment, and you can see that the plants are all growing up through it, and that means when it gets windy this plant will blow around but it won't fall over and it won't snap. So you see why it's important, I didn't do this last year, to get the netting on before your plants really start to grow. Now this is really only important if you've got autumn sown hardy annuals, because they will start growing quickly, as you can see. So these are already coming up through the netting. It's really hard to get the netting and then poke the plants through it afterwards. You can do it, I managed it last year. But if you can get the netting in place before they reach it, so what you want to do is plant your plants. If you're doing spring sown ones, you want to plant your plants, then put the netting in, let them grow up through it, and then you can put the next layer of netting on if you need to do that as well. So this is what I've currently got in place, but because we said it was a job for the weekend, I'm going to see how we've got short stakes here. What we're doing now is we're going to get those longer stakes, put them in, and get the whole 30 centimetre and 60 centimetre netting on, just to show you what it looks like when it's done. And then I will take out most of what I've got in here, just so that we leave it as you'll probably want to do it from scratch. So you can see here as well where my poppies are. There's just you know, we've found stakes and wood and bits of things in the garden, and we've put on our first layer here of netting, which is about 30 centimetres high, so that the poppies, when they reach that level, will just have that extra bit of support to grow up through, and it will hold them up steady. So now we've got it right in the corner of the bed here. You don't need to put your netting on before you put the stakes in. I'm only putting this inside the netting because the netting's already here. So you would put the stakes in first and then slide the netting over the top of the stakes. So we've got to bash it into the ground as far as we can. Underneath here there's all sorts of pots and bricks and all sorts, so our ground is pretty solid. And there you have a post. So we will do this around the bed about every, well, this is a 4 metre bed, and we're going to put 4 in here, so 1 at each end, and then spread the other 2 so that the net will stay really taut as the plants are growing up through it. Honestly, get out there and do it. You'll be so glad that you did. You also then have the opportunity to cover this whole thing in fleece if it gets hideous weather this week, which is due to, which will protect your plants a little bit, kind of like this. And you'll be able to put it on the top layer of netting if you put an extra layer of netting in. I'll probably balance mine on the hoop still while they're here. So here is the finished thing. Right, so this took us quite long to do the first time, but we'll just go around and do all of the beds at some point. So I just want to show you a few things. So we ended up doing a post every metre, so that really will secure the plants. And the other thing that happens then is that these plants here may well not need this second tier of netting. Ordinarily what I would do, normally for myself, is to put on this first layer here, right, so everything can start to grow up through it, and I'd only put this second layer on when required. Okay, so what's probably going to happen is these plants here are all going to be slightly smaller, so they may not need this second layer, in which case then I can cut here, right, and have my shorter plants in this part of the bed and my taller plants over here. Otherwise it just creates a problem when you're trying to cut the flowers if you've got an extra layer of netting that you don't really need. Now I've done it this way just so that I can show you guys what I mean, right, because some people were saying, oh, do you mean you wrap the netting around the outside of the plants? It doesn't pick up very well on the video here, but it's just these 2 layers like this, right? 1, 2. And it's just the tension that's keeping these up at the moment. You can tie bits of string and twine around if you need to, but at the moment I don't need to. So what I will say is that I do hate using this plastic netting. These squares are 15 centimeters by 15 centimeters, by the way. You need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares across and 13 squares down if you are doing a 2 by 1 meter bed, which is what I'm doing here, just to save you on trying to count this stuff. Now, I do really hate this, and what you can do if you prefer is just to put loads of posts in and then wind string round instead, to create something that's a bit more environmentally friendly. Now, I really don't like this stuff, but I couldn't find a really good other substitute that was lightweight and resilient and waterproof and practical like this. But what I am going to do going forwards is I will keep these posts in the beds now. I took them all out last year, I don't know why. I'll keep all these posts in the bed, and I will keep all of this netting in the bed. And when I pull my plants out, I'll pull them out from underneath, and this netting will be here for my plants next year. So I know it doesn't look pretty, but I tell you, by the come the summer, this is all going to be covered up with plants and you won't even know it's here. So this second layer I might lift off because it's not tied on, actually, it's just placed on for you guys. I wouldn't put this on, like for my own plants going forward. I won't put the second layer on now. I will put it on when it's required, and I'll probably lift that off and store it somewhere in the winter so I can put it back on the next summer. Okay, so in the real world, you can put your stakes in. Now, you only need to do this, like I say, if you've got autumn sown hardy annuals like I have here in the garden, then this is the time when you can be doing this. If you haven't put any out into the garden yet, then don't worry about it. Honestly, it's a lot easier to do it once the plants are tiny in the ground, to put the netting on top of them then. Don't try and put it all on and then sow underneath. I mean, I'll have to do that next year, but it's a price worth paying to not have to throw the plastic away in my mind. So ideally what you want is if you've got plants outside now, so this is about, I don't know, probably 30 centimeters height. This is probably about 60 centimeters height. These are 1 meter high, and you can see already, if we get a storm, these ammi here are already being supported by the netting here. I'm going to throw some fleece over these as well, and then they are good to go. And I know that I've done one of my big jobs. Now, I have got a whole heap of other beds to do, but at least we've begun. I hope that's been helpful to you to explain a bit more what I mean by netting your beds. So one last thing I just want to make really clear to you as well, a couple of things, is check the back of your seed packets for the height that your plants are going to get to. So these ammi will get to 1.2 meters high, so they'll be all the way up to here, right? And so they need 2 layers of support. I might even end up putting a 3rd layer in for these ones. So your ammi will get really tall. Some of these will get really tall, but some of them will only get 60 centimeters. Loads of the cut flowers that we're growing will only be 60 centimeters tall, and in that case you only need 1 layer, right? Because no point having another layer here just for the tips. It'd be really annoying when you're trying to cut them. So read the back of your packet. So I always make sure, obviously, that I plan my garden so that I have, now the sun comes in this direction, right? So it goes across the sky like that. So my beds are organised in this direction, and I have the shortest ones at the front going up to the tallest ones at the back. That's how I've planned my garden out to be, so that I don't have tall plants overshadowing smaller ones. You might notice, if you're very observant from the video earlier, I had some Phacelia in here, and that was going monster, and it was totally crowding out my beautiful ammi behind, and my Canterbury bells behind here. And so I've actually taken it out. I'm sowing it again with our February kit, and I'm going to find a new home for it, because I realised I'd put that in the wrong place in this graduation of how tall the plants are going to get. So these ones are going to need the double layer, and these ones probably won't down here. So just read the back of your packets to see and get familiar with how tall your flowers are going to be in the end. If they're going to be over 90 centimetres, then you probably want 2 layers. If they're going to, because they're going to be up to like here, right? But if they're going to be 60 centimetres, 1 layer is all that's required. Just start with 1 layer and add another one if you need it, basically. So in the end, I ended up doing exactly what I had said, and that was lifting off this top layer after I'd done the demo for you about how it will work. So I've lifted off that top layer so I can get my fleece back on nicely, tucked everything up, ready for all the wintry cold under the fleece. Now, so it's still got the bottom layer of netting on that's supporting some of the fleece. I have some hoops here that have been used to hold up various bits of netting around the garden. You can use old hose pipes, you can, whatever you can. It's always about making do with whatever you've got, right? Like, hence the clothes pegs. And so these are all tucked up nicely now, along with their fellows under here, where they will remain until it warms up a little bit. And then as they grow, I'll put that next layer on. But I've done the hard work bit, which is getting these posts nailed in and all ready to go. The only other tip, I guess, is that what you probably want to do when you get to the summer is put some flower pots over the top of these, just to make sure you don't poke your eyes out when you lean over to cut your flowers. Okay, all right, hopefully that's helpful. Bye.